welcome to the DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Josh Shepardson at BChad50, and the trade deadline is quickly approaching. Everything going crazy, talks, rumors, skepticisms, whatever it may be. All you need to know today is to keep your eye on what happened. Obviously, the trade deadline is 4 o'clock, but things can be agreed upon in principle and still change between 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock, as we've seen a million times. So just keep your eyes on. We just saw in the last 2 minutes Dan Herron got traded. That obviously doesn't change anything today, but we saw Gerardo Parra got traded this morning to the Orioles. Maybe Yoenis Cespedes is on the move. A lot of people maybe moving. So just don't expect 90% of the people to be where they are come tonight. Because I'm not saying anyone can move, but a lot of things can change. So you got to be ready up until 7 o'clock. And on DraftKings especially, be ready up until game block. Late lock is going to be your best friend tonight.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, all right. So let's start off here. Clayton Kershaw day, a few days late. He had some issues on whatever his rear, whatever you want to call it. But either way, $14,500, which is interesting because when he was actually supposed to pitch a couple days ago in a better matchup, he was 15. So we get a discount, slightly tougher matchup, I guess. But Mike Trout, depending on where you look, where you ask, might not be 100%. Kershaw's your top option if you can pay up. He's very expensive, but I mean, all he's done in his last 3 games is pitch 26 of the 27 possible innings, 14 total hits, no earned runs, no walks, and 38 strikeouts. So last time I checked, that was pretty damn good. Clayton Kershaw's the guy that you want in your cash games if you can afford him. You're obviously going to have to go cheap at your other pitcher or sacrifice some bats. I prefer to go cheaper at the second pitcher because tonight's going to be a pretty high-scoring night. There's a lot of guys on the mound, give up a lot of home runs, some pretty high team totals, some pretty high overall totals. So I'll just go ahead to my favorite cheap option, and then we'll move on from there. Ian Kennedy, $6,900. I know you agree here. Last start against Miami, 24.7 points, 7 hits over 6 innings, 1 earned run, was a solo homer, and 7 Ks, 1 walk. So $6,900. Less than half the price of Clayton Kershaw. He's in a good line for the win tonight, despite the fact that his team is just, they're a stagnant offense, and who knows who's still going to be there come tonight. But he's just in a good spot at that price.
Yeah, I mean, price considered, that's a steal for Kennedy, and he does make for a great partner to pair with Kershaw. Looking at some of the other top arms, I'm looking at Danny Salazar and Madison Bumgarner. Salazar, another guy who's facing a team that he just faced recently, spun an 8 2/3 inning gem on the 10th against the A's, allowing 5 hits, 1 unearned run, 1 walk with 8 strikeouts. Worth 35.3 fantasy points on DraftKings. So big scoring output. We know he's got big strikeout upside. The A's no longer have Ben Zobrist. They got rid of him. We know that they are a team that is in full sell mode. So there's a good chance that a guy like Josh Reddick might not be on the roster come lineup block later tonight. And even if they do trot out their entire lineup, Salazar's biggest issue is home runs, and he's at ODACO tonight. Good ballpark for kind of mitigating the risk with him, which is the long ball risk. But I like Bumgarner a little bit better, backed by the biggest team total tonight with the Giants. Facing Nick Martinez, should be in a really good position to get the win. He's left-handed, and the best hitters in that Rangers lineup are left-handed as well, and we know Bumgarner's death on lefties. He's since 2013, he owns just a 237 WOBA allowed to lefties. So guys like Prince Fielder, Rougned Odor, Josh Hamilton, Shin-Soo Choo, whoever happens to be in the lineup of those lefties is in for a long night with Bumgarner. So I like him quite a bit. In GPPs, my preference is to use Bumgarner or Salazar or the combination as opposed to paying up for Kershaw, because I do really want some of those bats that we're going to get to on a nice slate like tonight. And then one more name that I'll throw out there that isn't a pricey name to go along with Ian Kennedy. As a cheaper option, $7,700 Eduardo Rodriguez of the Boston Red Sox. Been up and down, but when he's good, he's been very good. He's got 3 real mess starts this year where he's allowed 6 earned runs or more, but then he has 7 starts where he's allowed 1 earned run or fewer. So it is a Jekyll and Hyde story with Rodriguez, but when he's good, he's very good.
Yeah, the ultimate GPP play for you there. And then I'll throw out one more guy, Wei-Yin Chen. Baltimore should give him plenty of run support tonight. And this is a Detroit team that strikes out a ton against lefties. They also have a lot of power, and maybe we see Cespedes dealt. Who knows? They're obviously sellers at the deadline. David Price already sent out of town. Joakim Soria as well. So this is a guy that we know has upside. I mean, he's had some really big games, upwards of 40 points this year. So $8,200, especially if there's some pieces on the move, you got to like him tonight as well.
Yeah, and he's opposing a guy, Buck Farmer, who feels like one of those made-up names from the old MVP baseball series or like the 2K series. I mean, we had John Dowd as Barry Bonds back in the day, and now we've got Buck Farmer, who is actually a real person, in case anybody was wondering.
Yeah, and unfortunately for him, he has to face... Well,
Yeah.
anyone holding a baseball bat tonight, but especially the Baltimore Orioles. Not going to be a pretty night for this guy who was pretty terrible in the minors this year as well. It seems like the Tigers are just out of options, so that's why he's up here, and it's not going to be pretty tonight.
No, I agree. The O's look like a lot of fun to grab some bats from tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm sure we'll be covering quite a few of those, so we can go ahead and start off with one right now. Matt Wieters at $3,300 at catcher. Gotta like him. Fair price tag there for him in this matchup. Buster Posey is the guy that you want, but I am not sure that I'll be paying $5,400 hardly at all with not a lot of cheap pitching options I like. If I'm paying that kind of price tag, I think you know where I'm going. We'll get to him here in a few minutes, but way too expensive there. A couple other guys, Kyle Schwarber, once again, one of those guys who's rumored in some trades potentially, but $3,700, you got to like him tonight against Taylor Youngman.
Yeah, I love the ballpark. Miller Park is built for offense and built for left-handed power, and we know Schwarber is a very offensive-minded catcher, and we know he's got top-shelf power. I just go back and watch the 2-home-run game at Great American against the Reds, and you'll get to see what kind of top-shelf power he's got. But speaking of power, Stephen Vogt, decent GPP play, as I mentioned. Salazar's biggest issue is when he runs into home run problems. Not a lot of big threats left in that A's lineup, but Vogt can put a charge into the ball, even if he has had a bad month. I think that's going to further suppress his ownership. So looking at a guy that could be low owned that does have some upside, but I'm mostly going to be using Wieters tonight and Schwarber. Those are the two names that I'm going to lean on heavily. But if you're looking elsewhere, Vogt looks pretty good. And as you said, I mean, if you can spin all the way up to Posey, if you're willing to roll the dice on some of these cheaper arms, obviously Posey's in play, but I don't think he's a necessary expenditure, and I think that he's more of a single bullet in GPPs for me.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you there. So it's going to be a really interesting thing, and as we are talking here, I just see something. You're not going to be playing Ian Kennedy tonight because looks like he just left the team to be with his wife who is having a child. So enjoy that. Good luck. And don't play Ian Kennedy now because he's going to have a baby. So that's why I was monitoring Twitter.
Breaking news.
Yeah, there's probably going to be more by the time we're done here. But yeah, either way. Moving on to first base here. We've got quite a few options as always. Gotta love Chris Davis. We already talked about Baltimore. $4,400 Buck Farmer is just awful. Chris Davis, homer last night, double dong game 3 games ago. Really having a solid second half, starting to hit. I mean, he's always hit for power, but he's putting the ball in play at a decent amount too. Not striking out quite as much as he did in the first half. Jose Abreu locked in. White Sox starting to hit the ball well. Nathan Eovaldi has been a decent pitcher this year, but Abreu almost $1,000 cheaper than he was last night. I like him quite a bit at $4,600 as well.
Yeah, name that I like at first base is a guy that most people will probably play at third base if they're going to pay for him, and that's Todd Frazier against Jeff Locke at Great American. I think that using him at first is going to give you some unique lineup options tonight that maybe others don't put together. So I do like him quite a bit. You can go back to Anthony Rizzo if you want to chase the home run. Youngman doesn't miss a lot of bats, so pitching to contact to a guy like Rizzo who has left-handed power at Miller Park can be a bit dangerous, so I like that. Another guy who gets a big big ballpark boost is Eric Hosmer at Rogers Center against Drew Hutchison. Hutchison much better at home, but Rogers Center is a very tough venue for anybody to pitch in. Royals can hang some runs when they get rolling. Hosmer's been locked since the All-Star break. Do like him in a matchup with the righty. Brandon Belt looks like a good GPP play to me. Not going to have that super sexy lineup spot. First base is so deep, it's very easy to overlook him, but he's at he's at Rangers Ballpark in Arlington. substantially different ballpark than AT&T Park, so nice break for Belt tonight. Really crushes right-handed pitching, and Nick Martinez has struggled with all hitters, lefties, righties, and the regression monsters reared its ugly head here recently, and I expect more of the same tonight. And then if you're looking cheap at first base, there's a guy that also third base eligible I love. That's Pedro Alvarez at Great American Ballpark against Michael Lorenzen. Big raw power. Lorenzen's giving up a WOBA north of 400 to left-handed batters in his career. And Alvarez, obviously there's swing and miss issues there, but when you get him out of PNC Park and into a bend box like Great American Ballpark, I really like taking a chance on that power.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you there. And then I'm also looking at one more guy who's probably going to fly under the radar despite being hot recently. 6 home runs in his last 5 games. Lucas Duda. And it is a lefty-lefty matchup, but Duda's actually hit lefties significantly better than righties this year and has been much better at home. So certainly not a cash game play, but a guy with some big upside against Gio Gonzalez, who's actually been pretty good. Much better against lefties than righties, of course, being a lefty, but I like him in tournaments as well. All right, second base options. There's quite a few guys to look at here. Brandon Phillips is coming off of a monster night last night. He's very cheap, $3,500. You're obviously not chasing that huge night, but Jeff Locke is a marginal major league pitcher at this point, if you ask me. But I think the guy that you want in that ballpark is going to be Neil Walker at $3,700.
Yeah.
You already kind of touched on it. Lefties against Michael Lorenzen, that's where you want to be.
Yep, and the ballpark factors are just awesome. I mean, you're talking about a ballpark factor for homers north of 140 according to Stat Corner for left-handed batters. So big power boost there. Same price point I love in GPP's Logan Forsythe against Eduardo Rodriguez. Forsythe absolutely hammers lefties, and because he costs the exact same amount as Walker, I do expect him to have low ownership. Another guy at the 3,700 price point I love is Luis Valbuena at home. Minute Maid Park against Jorge De La Rosa, another right-handed pitcher that really struggles with left-handed batters. Valbuena had an awesome lineup spot hitting cleanup the other day. Gotta like if he gets this treatment tonight, that would be a boon for his value. Howie Kendrick at 3,800 looks good against lefty Hector Santiago tonight. Colton Wong against righty Kyle Kendrick for 41 is another strong play. Kendrick obviously struggles a lot with left-handed batters. And then Matt Duffy, if you want a piece of that big total in Texas from the Giants, you can grab their number 3 hitter who is 4,200 and second and third base eligible.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And then there's one more guy that's cheap, but we'll save him for shortstop. He's got dual
Sounds good to me.
Not shortstop. Third base now. A lot of good options that you want to look at here. Some interesting ones you already mentioned. Luis Valbuena has that third base eligibility. Same with Matt Duffy as well. Matt Carpenter had a huge game last night. Now gets a terrible pitcher in Kyle Kendrick. $4,100. You got to like him. Jung Ho Kang, $3,900 against Lorenzen. Righty, not a lefty, but you gotta like him. And then Evan Longoria, seems like every Friday night he's going against a lefty, and seemingly every Friday night he goes on their own because there's a lot of other options. So gotta love Evan Longoria. I think in cash games tonight he makes a lot of sense on DraftKings tonight.
Love the price point, love the matchup. Definitely a big Longo fan, and you gotta like that he's at Fenway Park instead of the Trop tonight. Good point. If you're willing to pay up, A-Rod against Carlos Rodon at U.S. Cellular Field is a really good spot to get some power. Frazier mentioned him at first base, but also obviously in play at the hot corner. And then, like you said, Gong, I like him a little bit better at third base. Or, I'm sorry, shortstop than third base, because shortstop does stink by and large tonight. But he's been on fire since he's gotten an everyday role, basically, for the Pirates, reeling off just multi-hit game after multi-hit game, flashing his power, really showing that his bat translates from the KBO to MLB this year. So I'm a big Gong fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And then as we move over to shortstop, you already mentioned him. I'll give you the cheap guy that you really want. Cesar Hernandez, $2,900 against Williams Perez. First name, and he's been bad against left-handed batters this year. Pretty good against righties, actually, but his left-handed split, 345 WOBA allowed. Small sample size, just 21 to 30. Hasn't pitched a whole lot, but I mean, I think he's pretty much a lock. Should be batting near the top of that Phillies order tonight. That, you know, is a Philly team that doesn't have a lot of pop, but they've been much better recently. So you got to like that. And then if I'm paying, I'm with you on Gong there, or Johnny Peralta at $3,700.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can take a hack at Kyle Kendrick, you got to feel pretty good about that. And
I wish I
Peralta's
could.
price point is 3,700. Hard to argue with rostering him. Good lineup spot. I do think in GPPs, if you want to be a little bit different and chase some ceiling, there's some merit to using Carlos Correa, even though it's a righty-righty matchup with De La Rosa. Big power, big speed. I mean, Correa's doing it all. And then Brandon Crawford, $4,600. He's going to have a down order lineup spot, so people are going to be off of him, but much better left-handed batter park factors at Rangers Ballpark in Arlington than at AT&T Park. So if you're looking for a low-owned possible source of big scoring, that's Brandon Crawford, and not necessary in cash games. Don't need to grab a ton of shares of him in GPPs, but if you're running out multiple lineups, there's a good spot to be different, I think, because Peralta and Gong should be very popular at 3,700 and 3,900, and to have to pay up for Crawford, I think a lot of people are going to go ahead and avoid doing that.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And I'll throw out one more guy. Francisco Lindor, $3,700, bat second. Kendall Graveman has been an okay pitcher this year. Not a guy you're going out of your way to pick on, but Lindor's been looking good recently. I mean, he's got multi-hit games in 5 of his last 9, and obviously in all those games he has double-digit points in 4 of his last 6. So $3,700 was a guy that all of a sudden has a little more pop than he had in the minors, but you got to like him.
Yep.
Outfields. There's one guy that you and I think you should pay for, and his name is not Nelson Cruz. That's not to say that Nelson Cruz is a bad play. He gets a lefty. Obviously, he's still a fine play. But Bryce Harper against Matt Harvey, maybe it sounds crazy, but at $5,500, here are your numbers for Matt Harvey against left-handed batters this season, and they are not pretty, so shield your eyes. 13 home runs allowed, 330 WOBA overall, 21 walks to 60 strikeouts. Not a very good ratio there. I mean, this is a guy who has gotten hit pretty hard by lefties, and you're going to be hard-pressed to find a better lefty that he's going to face this year, well, maybe ever, than Bryce Harper, and I absolutely love him in tournaments tonight.
Yeah, I mean, the sky's obviously always the limit with Harper, and just to kind of speak to how good he's been against righties this year, he's been from another planet. He's got 24 home runs and 279 plate appearances, and he's posting a 387 ISO, 494 WOBA, and 223 WRC plus against right-handed pitching this year. So, I mean, I don't care who the right-handed pitcher is at this point. Harper looks like a good play, and we know that Harvey's had some issues with the long ball at times this year. Harper can certainly hit the ball a long way, so I really love Harper. I think his price point is going to be prohibitive for people owning him. I think you're going to see people fade him because he's facing Harvey. Going to be lower ownership for Harper than there should be, and I love him tonight. But I also like another power hitter. I'm going to take J.D. Martinez against Wei-Yin Chen at Camden Yards. Like him at 4,600. That feels like a slight underpriced for a guy who's hitting the ball as well as he is. 4,700 for Adam Jones against Buck Farmer looks really good. Expect the Orioles to put some runs up on Farmer tonight. Looking at some other guys that I'm a fan of tonight include Brandon Moss at 3,600 against Kyle Kendrick in St. Louis. Another cheap-ish, I should say, $3,500 left-handed Gregory Polanco. You know the drill against Lorenzen. You want to get your lefties in there. And there's a guy at 3,400 in that same game that I know you love. Assuming he's not dealt, feeling like the theme of the day, who are you looking at in that outfield?
I'm looking at Marlon Byrd at $3,400, and I know in that game you were talking about, so there's 2 of them. Marlon Byrd's obviously a guy who might get dealt. Also, Colby Rasmus, $3,400. is a nice play as well. Eddie Rosario at $3,400 is a nice play. $3,400 might be the nice the sweet spot there. So those are 3 guys that I'm looking at around that price tag as well. And then I'm going to throw out Jason Hayward also, a guy that I just never seem to get on the right nights, but he's got a decent amount of power coming off his last game. Last night, a nice performance in a big game, $4,200, and then his teammate Randall Grichuk at $43. I like as well.
Yeah, and speaking of teammates, you named Colby Rasmus. I'll also throw out $3,600 Preston Tucker, who
Yeah.
really crushes right-handed pitching, and De La Rosa struggles mightily with lefties. So get him at Minute Maid Park, probably hitting second for the Astros. Gotta like that. Really curious to see how that lineup shakes out with Carlos Gomez there now, but Tucker certainly is not the guy that I expect to take a seat in favor of Gomez getting some time. So big Preston Tucker fan. You'd expect Jake Marisnick probably takes a seat, leaving both Rasmus and Tucker out there with Gomez. But really good looking outfield against Ruby De La Rosa tonight.
Yeah, I absolutely. I love those lefty bats tonight. And then Chris Young at 3,200, you mentioned, is a great option. If you're looking for really cheap guys, there's not a whole lot that really jumps off the page here. I like Dom Brown in tournaments, $2,400. I know it sounds crazy. He's a guy that's he's struggled so much at the major league level. But if you look at what he's been doing recently, it's been pretty good. I mean, 2 hits, including a homer last night. 2 games before that, he had 3 hits. 1 was a double, 1 was a triple, 3 RBIs. So maybe he's starting to get it going finally. I mean, a couple of years too late maybe, but $2,400 for him. And then Rusney Castillo homered last night. $2,600 gets Erasmo Ramirez tonight.
Yeah, huge salary relief right there. If you're looking to roster Kershaw, the outfield seems to be a good place to save some money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's some viable options out here. That's going to wrap things up here. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out all of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.